Difficulty in games is often subjective, but I'm on the quest to find out how difficult some of my favorite game series actually are, objectively speaking. If you're new here, here's the idea. Life's gotten busier, gaming has gotten noisier, and live service games have turned keeping up into a second job with worse benefits. Meanwhile, a lot of single player experiences that made me love games in the first place have been pushed farther into the background. So I decided to go back to the series that I grew up with and replay them with fresh eyes. Part nostalgia trip, part difficulty test, and part excuse to stop pretending I want to grind daily challenges forever. This video is part 4 of the Halo series where I take on Halo 3 ODST. I recorded and noted down every death I suffered while playing, and at the end of it all, I'll be able to say objectively which game in the series is hardest and why. Halo 3 ODST is a weird one because this time we're not playing as Master Chief. We're not a walking tank with plot armor and a helmet full of one-liners. We're just a regular ODST dropped into the worst night shift in human history, wandering through a ruined city while smooth jazz plays like the apocalypse has a saxophone budget. So the real question is ODST actually hard, or does it just feel hard because the game takes away the power of fantasy? I wanted a real answer, so I replayed it and tracked every single death, and right away, ODST feels different. It's quieter, slower, and more vulnerable. But that doesn't mean it is gentle, or does it? This game is still Halo, which means every calm walk through the city has the potential to turn into a Covenant-sponsored mugging. That's the point of this series. I'm going back through the Halo games I grew up with, counting every death and figuring out which one is actually the hardest. Halo 2 made a strong case by being openly hostile. Halo 3 felt smoother and more controlled, but ODST is interesting because it's not trying to overwhelm you with scale, it's trying to make you feel alone. Going in, I thought this might be one of the easier games. Smaller story, shorter campaign, no Master Chief, less galactic drama. How bad could it be? Turns out, when you take away the super soldier and replace him with a guy having the worst night in New Mombasa, Everbrute suddenly feels a little more personal. Halo 3 ODST opens by immediately separating itself from the Master Chief games. Instead of starting with a super soldier waking up to save the galaxy, we're introduced to a squad of regular ODST preparing to drop into New Mombasa during the Covenant attack on Earth. Buck, Romeo, Dutch, Mickey, and the Rookie are presented like less the mythic heroes and more like tired soldiers with personalities, grudges, and very little patience for nonsense. Captain Dare enters the scene and instantly changes the tone because her classified mission is clearly not the same mission the rest of the squad thinks that they're on. The squad expects to drop onto the Covenant carrier, but Dare redirects the pods at the last second, which turns a dangerous operation into a complete disaster when the carrier jumps into slip space above the city. The shockwave scatters the squad across New Mombasa, knocking the Rookie unconscious and turning the campaign into a mystery about what happened during the missing 6 hours. This matters because ODST is not built around charging forward as the chosen hero, it's built around waking up after everything has gone wrong and trying to piece together the damage. Since this mission is just a cutscene, obviously, no deaths here. Mission 2 is Mombasa Streets. This brings us to the first quote-unquote real mission, Mombasa Streets. It begins 6 hours after the failed drop, with the Rookie waking up alone inside a damaged drop pod in the occupied city center. This is where ODST fully reveals its structure, because the campaign is not told in a straight line. Instead, the Rookie explores the city, finds objectives and objects connected to his missing squad mates, and each clue triggers a flashback mission showing what happened to them after the drop. So, Mombasa Streets as a whole, between each flashback, is really just a walking simulator, or at least that's what it felt like to me, because you could breeze past most enemies and why fight when the SMG and pistol are suppressed. I thought, why not embrace the stealth? The nighttime and war-torn streets give the city an eerie personality, like New Mombasa is wounded but still trying to help the last person wandering through it. Story-wise, this mission changes the game from a military operation into a detective story. We aren't really looking for enemies to shoot, rather evidence left behind. Making our way to the first bit of evidence triggers the first flashback mission. The first encounter on Mombasa Streets, I had 1 death, so real easy and smooth start, especially compared to the original trilogy starring Master Chief. This gets us to Tayari Plaza, and it shows us what happened right after the failed drop. After Rookie finds the clue in Mombasa Streets, the game jumps back to Buck, who wakes up much closer to the chaos, and we immediately start looking for Dare. This is important because the opening cutscene made it clear that Dare changed the squad's mission at the last second, and now Buck is trying to figure out whether that decision got everyone killed. The mission is not just about reaching a crash site, it is about Buck realizing that the operation has completely fallen apart and that Dare's classified objective is still sitting underneath all the wreckage. The most interesting part is that Buck is not motivated by military orders here as much as personal concern. He clearly has a history with Dare, and the mission uses that relationship to give the search more weight than just go find the objective marker. By the time we reach Dare's pod, it's empty, which does not resolve anything. It makes the mystery worse. She's not confirmed dead, but she's also not safe, and now the game has taken the squad leader, scattered everyone else, and left Buck with more questions than answers. This mission matters because it turns Dare from a suspicious commander into the central mystery of the campaign, while also showing that the Covenant attack was not just a battlefield loss, it shattered the squad's entire plan before they even got started. Tayari Plaza feels like the game takes off the detective hat, throws you into a puddle, and immediately hands you a gun like great news. The mystery is now shooting back. The level is tighter than Mombasa Streets, pushing Buck through Covenant-occupied plazas, narrow streets, and small arenas where every corner has potential to become a workplace injury. We are still not Master Chief, and the game is very committed to reminding us because the recoil on every gun is heavier, the shields are replaced with stamina, and my least favorite part of Halo 1 makes a return here, where you have a health bar and have to pick up med packs to restore to full health. So of course, grunts, jackals, brutes, and turretfire all show up early, like the Covenant heard some ODST survived and decided that was a scheduling error. It's not overwhelming, but it's a clear shift from the quiet exploration to stop standing in the open unless you hate having organs. Buck is forcing his way through a city that is still actively falling apart, and every fight feels like another annoying delay between him and the answer he really does not want to find. Death count 4. So, this is still a comically low death count compared to the original trilogy. It suggests that, hey now that you aren't a Spartan, the Covenant don't really take you seriously and go a little bit easier. This gets us to Mission 4, Uplift Reserve. Uplift Reserved is where the rookie finds another clue and the story rewinds again, this time to Dutch after the drop goes sideways. Instead of waking up in the city streets like Buck, Dutch lands near the Uplift Nature Reserve, which immediately broadens the campaign beyond one missing person and shows how much of New Mombasa has been thrown into chaos. The mission reveals that the squad is not just separated, they are scattered across completely different battles, each one trying to survive their own version of the same disaster. Dutch links up with Marines and starts pushing through Covenant forces, which makes this section feel less like a personal rescue mission and more like a conventional war zone. The cutscenes and radio chatter keep reinforcing that nobody has a clear picture of what is happening, which matters because ODST is built around confusion, broken communication, and soldiers trying to make useful decisions with half the information missing. Dutch's role here also gives the squad a different texture because he's more grounded, calm, and practical than Buck. He's not chasing emotional answers, he's just trying to keep people alive and get them moving. By the end, the mission has expanded the stakes from where's Dare to how many people are even left standing after the drop. Uplift Reserve is where ODST remembers it's still a Halo game and politely rolls a vehicle section directly through the front door. After the tighter street fighting of Tayari Plaza, this mission opens up with warthogs, ghosts, choppers, open roads, and enough Covenant vehicles to make the local traffic report sound like a war crime. It feels faster, louder, and more chaotic, but also weirdly freeing because Dutch gets to solve problems the classic Halo way by driving at them until either the enemy explodes or the physics engine files a complaint. The mission has a nice rhythm because it keeps moving you from one scrimmage to the next without getting too bogged down, and wider spaces make the combat feel less claustrophobic than Buck's mission. That said, being an ODST in a vehicle fight is still funny because the game gives you a warthog and says, relax, you're mobile now, while every grunt with a fuel rod cannon quietly starts updating your obituary. Death count, 6 deaths here. I guess at this point, pacing and knowing which fights to take, which fights to leave in Halo games has really started to click for me. Mission 5, Kazingo Boulevard. This brings us to Kazingo Boulevard, where the rookie finds another clue and the flashback shifts to Mickey. After Uplift Reserve showed Dutch fighting through the outskirts, this mission pulls the campaign back into the city and starts turning scattered survival into an actual regrouping effort. Mickey is not just trying to stay alive here, he's trying to reconnect with friendly forces, secure heavy armor, and push toward a rally point where the squad might finally start becoming a squad again. The story matters because this is one of the first times ODST stops feeling like 5 separate disasters and starts feeling like those disasters are slowly converging. The Marines are pinned down, the Covenant are dug into the streets, and Mickey's arrival with a Scorpion tank gives the UNSC the first real sense of momentum since the drop went wrong. By the end, Mickey links up with Dutch, which pays off the previous mission and gives the campaign a small but important victory. The squad is still missing Buck, Romeo, Dare, and the rookie, but now at least 2 people have found each other, and in ODST, that basically counts as a family reunion with artillery. Kazingo Boulevard feels like ODST briefly got tired of reminding you that you are fragile and just lets you borrow something with a cannon. After the open vehicle chaos of Uplift Reserve, this mission gives you a Scorpion tank and lets you roll through the city like New Mombasa's angriest tow truck. The combat feels more empowering because enemies that were scary on foot suddenly become target practice with bad career timing. But the mission is not completely mindless because the streets still create awkward angles, infantry can swarm around you, and Covenant vehicles keep showing up like they did not see what happened to the last guy. The best part is the tonal whiplash. ODST spends all this time saying, "You're not the Master Chief," then hands you a tank and quietly adds, "But for the next 10 minutes, please act emotionally unavailable and heavily armored." It is a great pacing shift because the campaign needed a power spike, and Mickey's mission delivers it without fully breaking the grounded feel. Death count, 7 deaths here. This is one of the highest death counts I rack up in this game, but again, it's still crazy low in comparison to the average death count in the first 3 games. This brings us to Oni Alpha Site, where Mickey and Dutch finally reunite, which would be heartwarming if the game did not immediately reward them with a bridge demolition, courtyard panic, and a full Covenant property inspection. After Kazingo Boulevard lets you cruise around in a tank, feeling emotionally stable for once, this mission yanks the keys away and says, "Great, now defend this building while everything collapses." The story matters because Oni clearly knows the Covenant are after something important in New Mombasa, and Dare's secret mission starts feeling less like side drama and more like the real reason that everyone is stuck in this nightmare. Mickey and Dutch are doing the loud version of the job, blowing the bridge, falling back, and buying time, while the bigger mystery stays hidden under all the smoke and bad decisions. By the end, the UNSC is not winning ground, they're destroying their own city just to slow Covenant down, which is usually a sign the meeting could have gone better. I only added a single death to the total count with this mission, so easy peasy, on the same level of difficulty as the 90% walking simulator, which is New Mombasa Streets. This brings us to NMPD HQ, where the rookie finds Romeo's sniper rifle and the story jumps back to Buck and Romeo trying to regroup after Dares disappears. After Oni Alpha Site showed Mickey and Dutch buying time on the ground, this mission moves upward to the rooftops where Buck and Romeo are searching for signs of the rest of the squad. The story matters because the team is finally starting to reconnect, but ODST refuses to make the reunion feel clean or comforting. Every time someone gets closer to safety, the Covenant immediately show up like they are subscribed to emotional sabotage. The mission also gives Romeo more focus, showing him as a sarcastic sniper who acts above everything until the fighting gets ugly enough to remind him that he is still very mortal. By the end, the squad is almost back together, but Romeo gets badly injured by a brute chieftain, which turns the reunion into an emergency. It's a classic Halo pacing. Good news arrives, then immediately gets hit with a gravity hammer. 4 deaths here, not much to say as there are so few deaths in this game, it feels like I haven't had the opportunity to get hard stuck once. Mission 8, Kikawani Station. This brings us to Kikawani Station, where the squad is finally mostly reunited, which would be great news if Romeo was not injured and the city was not actively auditioning to become a swimming pool. After NMPD HQ, the goal is simple: get everyone out alive. Unfortunately, the escape plan involves pushing through a flooded station, stealing a phantom, and trusting the squad to improvise transportation during an alien invasion. Buck, Mickey, Dutch, and Romeo are together now, so the campaign feels like the team is rebuilding itself after the disaster of the intro drop. But Dare and the rookie are still missing, which keeps the bigger mystery alive and reminds us that this is not the finish line yet. By the end, the squad escapes in the Phantom, but ODST is basically saying, "Nice work surviving, now please report to the Underground Nightmare Department." Another 4 deaths here, one too many of which came from hitting the wrong button and just bailing out of my Banshee to fall to my doom. This brings us to Mission 9, Data Hive, where the rookie finally stops playing flashlight detective and heads underground to find Dare. After Kikawani Station gets the squad out of the city, this mission pulls the story back to the missing piece that started the whole disaster. Dare is alive, and more importantly, her secret mission was never really about the squad. She was trying to recover the superintendent's data, which means that the city AI was not just helping the rookie out of kindness, it was protecting information the Covenant desperately wanted. The big reveal is the engineer, later known as Virgil, who has absorbed the superintendent's data and now carries proof of what the Covenant discovered beneath New Mombasa. That makes Data Hive the mission where ODST finally connects its small survival story to the larger Halo 3 plot. This was never about lost soldiers in a ruined city, it was about the Covenant uncovering something buried underneath Earth, and the rookie has now stumbled into the most important IT rescue mission in human history. 7 deaths here, definitely an uptick, but considering the mission par times are getting longer, it isn't all that surprising. This gets us to Mission 10, the Coastal Highway, the final mission where Rookie, Dare, and Virgil have to escape New Mombasa while the rest of the squad comes back into the story. After Data Hive reveals that Virgil is carrying the superintendent's data, the goal becomes very simple: protect the floating alien information baby at all costs. This is the payoff to the whole campaign, because every scattered flashback, every clue, and every lonely walk through the city has led to this one escape. Dare's secret mission finally makes sense, the squad is reunited, and New Mombasa is no longer just a ruined battlefield, it's a place where humanity gets a critical piece of information about what the Covenant found beneath Earth. In the usual Halo fashion, the mission starts off with some gun combat, and then ends off with some vehicle gameplay. Rather than a race to the finish line before a big explosion, it's a big escort mission with plenty of fighting along the way. They're not saving Earth in the big Master Chief way, they're escaping with something that might help humanity survive what comes next. By the end, New Mombasa is lost. The city is basically a smoking crater with streetlights, but the squad gets out with Virgil. ODST closes by making its smaller story matter inside the larger Halo arc. These were not Spartans saving the galaxy, but they still carried out a mission that mattered by getting Johnson some important strategic information to help further the fight against the Covenant. Halo 3 ODST is a smaller, stranger, more atmospheric Halo game that trades the power fantasy for survival, mystery, and squad-level storytelling. It's not trying to outscale Halo 3 or outpunish Halo 2. It's trying to show you what war feels like when you are not the chosen one, when you are just one soldier waking up in the wreckage and trying to figure out where everyone went. And after tracking every death, how does it measure up to every other game so far? Well, altogether, I racked up a total of 41 deaths, making Halo 3 ODST easily one of the most trivial games in the series. This is more aligned with the difficulty of the BioShock games rather than a Halo game, seeing as this game didn't even crack the triple digits. But the question still remains, how does Halo Reach measure up? If you like the series, like the video and subscribe to the channel so you can tune in next week where I take on my original favorite game in the Halo series, Halo Reach.